Bienvenidos una vez más a su programa Hablemos de Real Estate con Carlos Amaya, donde hablamos relacionado con real estate, familia y finanzas en los Estados Unidos. En el programa de hoy tenemos un invitado especial, vamos a hacer un programa en inglés, vamos a hablar todo lo que tiene que ver con syndication. So we have a special guest today. We're going to have an English-speaking guest. We're going to talk all about syndication. So stay with us. If you have any questions, let us know in the chat. We'll be back in a few seconds. En Hablemos de Real Estate con Carlos Amaya creemos que la familia es la base de la sociedad. Por eso, nuestra misión es proveer información y herramientas a la comunidad latina de cómo lograr la libertad financiera a través de bienes raíces. So we have a great guest. Mark is the co-founder of Think Multifamily and has invested in thousands of units. He has a top-notch reputation among the industry. And also, he has a community. He has a mastermind. He has a podcast. And most important of all, he works with his wife, and he has a man of faith. And for me, it's an honor. He's my mentor. And everything has to do with multifamily and someone that we have an alignment of values in terms of like ethical and family. So for me, it's an honor to have him as part of our podcast, our show. So, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited, super happy. This is something that I wanted to do for a long time. So let's start from the beginning. So how did you get into the industry? How did you get into real estate?
Well, I started investing in small multifamily almost 30 years ago. I was a senior in college, and nobody I knew really was doing it. But I have an identical twin brother, and we both kind of been business minded, pretty young, didn't really have any examples or role models, but we're like, you know what, everyone needs a place to live. We're both kind of analytical too, kind of a CPA background originally. So we started buying small multifamily about 30 years ago. I did IT consulting. I was a CPA for a while. I had an IT firm, business management consulting, but continued to buy small properties until about 2013. At that time, I was working a lot of hours, and I mean like 90 plus hours a week, every week, sleeping like 3 hours a night, and frankly, just didn't have a lot of extra time. And my wife had an issue with it for some reason, and she was like, yeah, this is not working out great. You need to do something differently. And I'm like, in my spare time, like, I'm not sure how I'm going to pull that off. So we agreed that we would kind of do something together. We didn't know exactly what it looked like. We looked at a lot of different things, and ultimately ended up on kind of larger multifamily properties, typically 100 plus units. We invested passively first with a friend of ours, and then started doing our own syndications. And then we've done over 16,000 units, a little over $1 billion in total assets. And it's like a little over 100 transactions in total. But it really, for me, it was not 100% tied. A lot of people are money driven, which I get. I was too when I was younger, because we didn't have a lot growing up. But it really, for me, it was more trying to get a work, life balance, which I had no balance whatsoever in my life.
So something that I said in the intro is that you have a great reputation, and especially with all those large numbers of property you're doing, it could be easier not to deviate for that. But I've been having the privilege to go to many events through the whole nation, and every time I mention your name, I have the same reaction. Oh, great guy, great reputation. He's been doing this for a long time. So I just want to congratulate you about that.
No, thank you. I think that's really good to hear. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I think as long as you own up to things and you're continually striving to do the right thing, and we've learned a lot, by doing a lot of transactions. But I do appreciate that. But we still make mistakes, we still mess up, and we have to try to get better all the time.
Definitely. So let's go back to the first property. 30 years ago, there wasn't any like podcast, like bigger podcasts, maybe something else. I don't think the podcasts were
internet barely exists. If it had been like in 93.
I was gonna say that, because most of the people that invest in the last decade, they always mention like, okay, reach out for that book, and they mention that
right,
the like bigger podcasts or the real estate guys. And you're 30 years ago, how did you come up with the idea? I know, like, you just say, okay, people need a place to live, but how did you knew who to call? I remember the MLS at that time, there were books. It wasn't like a system where you have to go to the real estate office to find out what kind of properties do they have available. So how did you come up with the idea? Who were your mentor at that time? So how told you what to do and where to go?
Yeah, so definitely did not have, anything online, back in 93 or anything like that. Didn't have internet. We didn't. And for us, we were in a pretty small town, about 16,000 people or so. And there was really only one guy in our town. We had a lot of real estate agents, but only one guy at our town that did all the commercial, probably 99% of the commercial. He put, he got the Walmart out there. He just phenomenal guy. And as a father of one of our friends. So I think a property was listed and we said, hey, let's go look at that. Even though we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't really know how to analyze deals. There are a lot of things we didn't know. He helped us a lot. I would consider him my first mentor. I would. It was smaller multifamily. It's, valued a little bit differently and things like that. But he helped us like on negotiating things and just he really liked us. We liked him and it worked out well. We ended up buying, maybe half a dozen properties or so with him. And we learned as we went. Unfortunately, we were doing everything ourselves initially with the smaller properties. So we were doing, kind of a lot of the rehab, even though we weren't very good at it. We were doing rent collections and evictions and all those things. But it was really learned trial and error. We just figured, hey, as long as the rents can cover the mortgage, and at that time it was amortized, so there was no interest only on these loans. We're like, even if we broke even on a deal, right? As we went, we're still going to be paying the debt down. So that's one of the advantages is really the paying down the equity as well.
That's great. So at that time, how much? Do you remember how much you paid for that property? What kind of rate did you get?
We paid 30. It was 32,000 for a 3-unit. Well, it was kind of a 2-3 unit. We ended up making it a 2-unit, really, just because of the way it was structured. Oh, we actually, sorry. It was we put some money into it too. Not a lot. I guess it was like 15 grand or so, something like that. It was rate wise. I don't know. I really don't remember the rate at all. I do know. I mean, it was recourse debt, right? So we had personal liability where, now I think I have, 770 million or so in loans, but it's all non-recourse debt. So personal liability doesn't exist unless you do something you shouldn't do, really.
Yeah. And I want to touch about that a little bit later in terms of like the details and let's go back to the stage when you decided to go large units. So you were doing small multifamilies, you were doing the IT, you were working like crazy hours. So how did you come up with the idea that okay, that's fine. I'm gonna go big. I'm gonna go to like 100 plus. That usually the transition is like you go from the 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16.
Right.
And some people stay there. As people go to the 32, but that's the max. So how do you decide to, you know what, I'm going to go to 100 plus?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with doing a smaller properties. We just found that time you spend is the same, so we might as well do larger. We were looking for something different, and we looked at franchise. We looked at doing custom development homes. We ended up doing, looked at self storage. Look at all these different things. And someone my wife worked with early on, just for a few months, but became good friends. Her husband was doing a syndication. At that point in time, I never heard of a syndication, 2013. First time I ever heard of it. And I was like, well, it makes kind of a lot of sense. I think it was like 116 units that he was buying. And I put actually some retirement funds in there. And I was like, that seemed like it kind of just clicked with me. So there are a lot of things, I don't know why, right? I mean, you would know it's God given, right? For whatever reason, but I can't play music. I can't do a lot of other things, but for some reason, it just kind of clicked with me. It made a lot of sense. It came kind of fast as far as picking up concepts and things like that. And we ended up going to an event. Actually, I went to an event and my wife was out of town, and then she went to the next event and I didn't go. And then we decided like, hey, this is something we want to give a shot at. Mainly we said, even if we would make half of what I made in IT, we could, survive and live. Right. But it was important enough to us to where, I needed to get some time back. It took a while, but not as long as it probably could have. Within a couple of years, I was able to basically give up my IT company, which is pretty fast. Just, we ended up circumstance wise and things like that. We were able to get a number of deals and things like that going.
And that have that big why is huge. That's Tony Robbins is one of the guys that we follow for a long time, and he says that. I mean, if you have a big strong why that make you like wake up in the morning, even when you don't want to, and do things that you don't want to do, but you know that you have a huge why. Why?
Right. Without the why, I mean, people they go to events, they go to different places, they get motivated. It's short lived. I mean,
Yes.
motivation will not get you to where you need to be. You need to be disciplined. You need to, follow people doing what you're doing. You need to have processes in place and things like that. But, and, getting hyped up is great, but I'm not the rah 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 guy. I mean, probably should be more of it, but I'm not. It's like, hey, you know what? We will teach you what to do. We're there for you. But at the end of the day, you need to actually take action. If you don't take action, then you might as well just get out of the business.
I agree 100%. Yes. Yeah. The big why is huge, but without any action and any discipline and a mentor, that's what I'm a huge believer of. Like you'd be part of that group, and that's why I decided to join the group. And thank God we found you because it's a great alignment. So for someone that has no idea what syndication is, because you mentioned, okay, 2013 was the first time I heard about it, but even now, 2022, there are a lot of people that have no idea what it is. So how do you explain for someone that has no clue what it is? And then we get into the details, and then we're gonna touch about a couple of things that you mentioned already.
Yeah. So whether it's real estate or anything really, it's just think of it as group purchasing. So for multifamily, let's say we're going to buy 100 units. The average person can't go buy 100 units on their own, but maybe you get, different people that have 50 or $100,000. They put all the money together, and then they use, the money together to buy something larger, and just the advantages like economies of scale and things like that. But I would just think of it as a group purchase, and it's not just tied to real estate.
Definitely, it's good purchase. So when you start, you went, you got to educate yourself. Listen, this is the path. If I'm like you just said before, if I make 50% of what I was making in my IT company, that's more than enough. I have time, which is what you want, what your main goal was. So how do you start it? So what was your first like step in, like intro step into the industry? What and then into the large multifamily? You had a lot of experience in small deals already, but how did you you came up with a plan? What did you do first?
Yeah. Oh, we joined a group that, kind of had an educational component to it. Looking back at it, it really, it was pretty high level, to be frank, but they had a good community of people. And we started going to events and meetups, and you have to get out there. You're not going to typically, if you're going to be in the syndication business, you're going to have to be in the, face to face with people, when you can be, not all the time. So we made the effort. So both, and it was nice because we were able to build the business together, my wife Tamila and myself. But it was going, meeting people, networking. Now, just everyone says, "Oh, it's so important to network." It is critical because you might meet one person at an event that literally can change your life forever. Maybe just even, not just even financially, but maybe from a personal standpoint, you meet somebody that you just click with and have a lifelong relationship. So that was the biggest thing for us. I was really nervous doing our first deal. We had to raise money for that. Never raised money. I'm more, IT and CPA, and those guys typically aren't the ones that are raising capital. But we got through it, and got our first deal closed that way. But no question, when we actually ask people in our group that are successful, why do they think they're successful? And number one usually comes back is because of the networking within the community.
Definitely. So, well, that first deal, did you start like finding getting new your own deal, and did you raise for it, or did you join somebody else's deal? How do you do it?
First one I joined someone's deal with my retirement funds, and then right after that, we started looking for our own deals, and it was a syndicated deal. It was seemed like a lot at the time, like $1 million raise. So pretty nervous about that at that point in time, but that's what we ended up doing on that first deal.
Okay, and this was 2013, you said?
We started in 13, and I think this was 15 when we did that first deal.
The first deal.
The other ones we invest passively. We invested passively some other things too outside of real estate, and then there was another syndicator that we do business with still today. Met him in 2013. I invested some retirement funds as well because my IT business, it was just myself, and I had people working for me, contractors, but I would pretty much max out everything for retirement. I would have to, need a place to put it essentially. And I didn't really like the stock market. So I started putting retirement funds into multifamily.
And it's great that you mentioned that, because a lot of people think about like a large multifamily syndication, so that they have to do it in like an active way. And some people don't know how, or they don't have the time, or they want to leverage somebody else's experience. So can you talk about like someone that has a decent job, that maybe has a business they like, and want to stay there, but it's still why that is investing in syndication as a passive investor, as an LP, makes sense for them.
Yeah. So there are a lot of benefits to being, if you want to say, just a passive investor, and it's an important role because obviously money is being brought in by the passive investors, or they call limited partners, kind of the same name. But your hands off. You know, the average limited partner or passive investor doesn't really realize what goes into first finding a deal, getting a deal closed. 100 things can go wrong on a deal, and lots of times the lead general partners could have hundreds of thousands of dollars, in some cases over $1 million or more, out that's at risk, right? So as a passive investor, that's not your issue. Passive investor, you're not having to sign on the loan with a lender. Passive investor, you're not out there talking to brokers. You're busy doing your job, right? You can't go jump on a plane and go meet brokers face to face. And there's different stats out there, and it will vary from what's going on in the market. But we've had people, they had to underwrite, over 100 deals to get just one. So the passive investor sees the one deal; they don't see the 99 that they had to go through to get it. And it's a lot of time, right? So. And there's, some stress overseeing the property and things like that. But the advantage to passive investor, you put the money in, you should hopefully get monthly reports, and then, participate in distributions. You also participate, generally speaking, in the depreciation benefits that can be allocated to you as a limited partner based on your equity position in the deal. But you're not doing anything day to day, and you're not having to go find the deals. And then, risk wise, it's about as low as you're going to get from a legal standpoint and things like that. And then you're investing in something that is a tangible asset. You can touch it, you can feel it. Generally speaking, it's not on the roller coaster like a stock is. And that I used to kind of literally get sick to my stomach when I would look at the stocks I had before I started doing more of the multifamily. I would look at it every day, multiple times a day, and I'm not even selling. I'm like, people are like, I lost money in the market today, or you made money. It's like, no, only if you sold. You don't lose any money or make any money unless you sell. So I kind of didn't, it was not everything is a financial decision either. Some cases it's more of a personal standpoint position, and your stress related to it. But multifamily has been great so far for us.
So you said that the way you started in the beginning was just get some funds from your 401k, and you explained really well, like the roller coaster of emotions that the 401k has. Like
Right.
there are people that in the morning, that when the market goes up, they're so happy. They go to Starbucks, if they have coffee, they're smiling. When the market's down, they have a horrible day. So,
Right.
what is the procedure of like someone that's watching, was listening to this in later time, for someone that has a 401k, they say, you know what, I don't want to be in that roller coaster. I want to get something like tangible, like you said, property that you can go touch if you want to. So what is the process for someone that wants to do the same thing that you did before? Just get those funds from that kind of investment and just bring it to like syndication projects.
Right. It will depend as far as whether it's still with your employer, or whether it's money sitting that you left the employer. So, I mean, you can invest cash, which is kind of obvious statement. You can borrow against your 401k, I mean, your current employer, and then you can use those funds. You can do things like, if you have like, hey, I left a job and I have $100,000 from retirement, you can do like a self-directed IRA, or what's called a solo 401k or a QRP. Those type of things you can do, all retirement related. Other people for funds would do like a HELOC loan, borrow at a pretty low rate, and then hopefully make a lot more on your return. Or they borrow against like a life insurance policy. I do this. It's called infinite banking, kind of the generic term for that, where you can put money in, it's cash value, and you borrow against it. It's a little confusing. That still makes money, return, and then you use the money to go invest in another deal. It's a concept a little harder to grasp, but once you grasp it, it makes a lot of sense. But there are providers out there. There's a guy in our group too, Josh Blave, that specializes more on the retirement side. He's a great resource. He's been in the business for a long time, and he really tries to help educate people on what makes the most sense for you, because there are fees involved. Some cases on this, some are a lot higher than others. There are also some cases where maybe your provider, you have checkbook control. So, I can write it out myself, the check to invest, or the wire. Other cases, I have to go through a custodian and they have to approve it. And in some cases that can take a while and maybe miss out on opportunity. So, but at the end of the day, there are a lot of ways to invest, maybe ways some people haven't thought, but back to your original question, if it really is a 401k and just your current employer, you can borrow, it used to be, 50% of what you had in there up to $50,000.
Yeah. So we always heard that 90% of real estate, 90% of millionaires they have some kind of investment in real estate. And so the regular person has W-2, or even having like a business, they say, okay, I would love to go to get into the industry, but I don't know how to do it. Now they know they can do it in a passive way. They can use
Right.
some of their funds if they want to the 401k, and there are different tools that you can try to utilize. But the other component of investing in real estate, there's a huge benefit that some people don't realize is the tax benefit.
Right.
So in terms of like someone that do like a passive investment, what are the benefits that the person can have, and why that make a huge difference versus investing in other asset class, for example?
Right. So depreciation will be determined based on the normal, 27 and a half years based on the property. But then there are other things that we do and other people do as well. One's called the cost segregation, where you're splitting the building and components up into their useful life to try to, roll a bunch of the depreciation earlier in the process. And then there's bonus depreciation, which has made it even better. That's scaling down. It's 100% today and scaling down, like 80% next year, et cetera. But at the end of the day, you're going to be allocated some sort of depreciation. Let's just say you invest $100,000, you may get $50,000 or $60,000 your very first year. It's going to be weighted heavily for the first year of depreciation allocated to you. Now, the question is, can you use it? Well, that's an individual question. One, you're not required to use it. Two, depending on your financial situation, you may not be able to use it and it will be rolled over. So when you do a sale, for example, it can be used to offset a sale. That's why a lot of people that do real estate transactions, they don't pay taxes as they go along, right? On sales or anything like that. I haven't paid any federal income taxes since 2015. And I make money, right? But I will get a lot of depreciation allocated to me that I can actually use. I'm a real estate professional. There are certain criteria you have to meet in order to be qualified as a real estate professional. But even if you're not, you still get it allocated. It's just a question of you can use it, but when can you use it? Some people can use it year one. Some people have to wait till some other passive income comes in to offset that depreciation.
That is amazing. That's one of the reasons why we decided to get into like syndication, large multifamily, because we bought properties in Jersey and as a really low value, and then the properties went really high in value. We wanted to sell them. We didn't want to do a 1031 exchange. We didn't want to sell high and buy higher. So
Right.
then we decided, listen, we're gonna start doing some LP position, and then we found about it, and then we want to become active. But not everybody has to do, and not everybody has to do it in an active way. A lot of people wants to do it in a passive way, and that makes a lot of sense. When you talk about real estate, there is a premise: the location. Oh, you always heard that since day one. In terms of multifamily, it makes a huge difference where you invest. So, how did you decide where to invest in terms of location, the state? What are the criteria that you utilize, and you, of course, you hope you try to pass all that knowledge to all of us so we can just follow the same path?
Yeah, I mean, originally for me, it was, we lived in Dallas, which was a good market to begin with. A lot of people don't live in good markets, right? Or they live in markets where
New York.
If you're in a market where there's rent control, for example, I'm never investing in a market that has rent control. Not going into a market anyways that has that. But you're going to look to see where people are moving for jobs, where they're, cost of living relatively inexpensive for the most part across the national average. But it's job growth, population growth, eviction. How easy is it to, evict people, being landlord friendly? This got tested a lot during COVID in a lot of the states, in my personal opinion, that were so-called landlord friendly. It was very sporadic. Certain counties were landlord friendly, other counties were not. So be cautious of that too, even within a state. The general statement, landlord friendly, doesn't necessarily always apply. And then development, are developers going there? Is there new supply coming online, like new properties being built or not? And the other kind of softer things not in this location as far as vicinity, but is there crime in the market? You're going to have crime in every market for the most part, but we've had properties before where the last couple months there was one that really no crime at the property, little to none, but the sub market had some crime, and even though it wasn't on the property, the lenders had issues with that. So you have to be careful on that too. Or the lender could say, hey, we're going to force you to have security, full time on there. And now you're, spending $200,000 a year on security, which is going to hurt your bottom line a lot. And then again, not location wise, then you just have the physical attributes of the property, right? So you don't have to have all those things going for you. We bought in markets before where population growth has been pretty small, but there's some reasons we bought it. We were buying properties for per door pricing really low. And then they also, in some cases, like Memphis, for example, had some incentives, and still does, where they have a pilot program. You have to invest a fair bit of capital into the property. They're trying to revitalize certain areas, and they cut your property taxes by 50%, and they freeze it for 20 years. So there could be other factors like that would, make you look at a market that maybe, in my personal opinion, probably not as favorable as a lot of the markets, but they have something else there that might incentivize you to go there and invest.
And I love what you said, because a lot of people think the market is like they get their statistics, or they watch the news, which is nationwide, and they look at the state, like you said. Okay, you look at the state, but you have to look at the local market, because the sub-market or the counties, depends where you are, it might vary. So you have towns that they're like only 10, 15 minutes apart, and there's a huge difference.
There's a difference too on the way the city will react to you as far as what they require for code, how big of a pain in the butt they are, how they do inspections. What they require, sprinkler systems or not. So there are a lot of differences there as well. So the more you get to know a certain market, the less, basically the less variables that are unknown, the better you are as a general statement, and the less risky an investment typically is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Right now, if you turn the news or you watch like social media, the word of the day is the recession, depression, inflation, stagflation, so all the Asians. So in terms of like investments in multifamily, why do you think this is an asset class that could be have like a strong component if, like, when everything we heard is good, it happens, we have the recession, it goes to depression and all those things that most likely might not happen, but that's why everybody's so worried right now. And we know the investment, when people make an investment, is based on like feelings, the fear, they want to make it, emotions, and that's what I'm trying to say, emotions. So what do you think about why this asset class might behave better in those environments?
Yeah, for one, I mean, it's performed really well during good times, which is great. But even during COVID, and performing really well as a whole. Right now, I think in September, the last stat I saw, occupancy across the country is 95.9% occupancy. Rents were up on average, renewals $125. We continue to push rents on almost all our properties that we have today. Part of it is because of the interest rates for single family homes. A lot of people have been priced out of the market. They can't get single family. So now they're getting pushed into rent instead. So there are a lot of good things going for it, occupancy wise, the rent increases, things like that. I think single family homes experienced like 2 months in a row of decreased rents for rental units, right, where multifamily has gone up. So it's somewhat been proven as an inflationary hedge. Now, will it perform as well as it has over the last several years? No, I don't think that's possible. Not when interest rates have gone up so high. So you need to make sure your underwriting, accounts for the higher interest rates and things like that. But everybody needs a place to live, right? Everyone has to have a place to live. They're gonna shift from, I can't buy a house anymore to I need to rent instead. And we've just experienced it. Now, could things change between now and 6 months or 12 months from now? It probably could. But my position would be, if multifamily starts having a ton of issues, then everyone else is having way more issues, because it's proven itself time and time again. Multifamily is down right now, pricing wise. So, you can maybe get a, so-called discount right now on a per unit perspective compared to what it would have been let's say 6 months ago. But I don't know where else you're going to put your money. Bank doesn't make sense. Stock market makes no sense to me personally. And there's just not a lot of alternatives out there. So, and again, it's proven that the occupancy and rent increases and all that. Now, rent increases have been 15, 25% over the last, couple of years in different markets. That's going to slow down. You never want to underwrite that way, but they're still up. I think it was over 10% over the last 12 months.
Yeah, so just a couple of great things as always. Underwrite, you have to be really careful when how you underwrite, and also I think that like large multifamily, you diversify the risk. If for example one of the property we still hold, 2-family houses, 3-family houses, one of the tenants live, so it's 50%, it's 33% of our income, versus if we have like 10, 20 tenants move out of like 120 unit property. Yeah, we will not be celebrated, but still the numbers still make sense. And like you said, like a lot of people just because of the rate increase, they just get out of the like the pool of buyers because they can't get a mortgage because the DTR are so high.
Right.
In terms of like the rates, how do you see the market conditions for large multifamilies? Like in terms of like a lot of people are concerned about like those be able to refinance in year 3, year 2, because the way the Fed have been raising the rent. Although some of the events I've been going to, they say, what, this is a 24-month cycle. Most likely 2 years from now, things are going to go down. But who knows?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's a crystal ball. Typically, it's an 18-month to 24 months, or I would agree with. But yeah, there's no question that the rate increases is a concern. A lot of the loans, even if they're so-called short-term loans, you are still going to be like a 5-year. So lots of loans we do will be like a 3-1-1. So it's 3 years with 2 1-year extensions. There are some people doing more local bank loans. So they might be in a bridge loan today and they're going into a local bank loan instead. That may be a 10-year term. Rate's going to be better. Interest only for 2 to 5 years. The downside is that typically it's going to be either full or partial recourse. So you have personal liability on those. So there'll be some discounts coming out here. I think people that are going to be forced to sell and they just can't get into a loan. Like if they get a new loan, maybe they have to dump $3-4 million into it even to get a loan because they're upside down on the equity. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. There are, if you're going into a new deal right now, there's certain things. The bank loans are typically fixed. And if you're going into a bridge loan, then you can do things like a rate cap, which will give you interest rate protection to a certain level. And it can only go up so high, things like that. And then the bank loans are the fixed, right? So that's fairly attractive, with the downside being the recourse component.
Yeah, a couple of things that like you said, if the market adjusts, and it will, because it's supposed to, there's a cycle, it's going to adjust for everybody.
Right.
When I heard people like, oh my God, this is the end of the world, so it's going to adjust for everybody. Like COVID happens to all of us. And then we have to figure out how can we adjust to it.
Right.
And then you make decisions in terms of that. You
mentioned, hopefully become smarter as a result of it too. I mean, no one likes to go through those. No one wanted to go through COVID. Definitely didn't. I mean, even from an investment standpoint, nobody really wants to go through. I don't think this rate increase that's been, very, very aggressive and things like that. But we do learn from it. And, some cases it's just a matter of timing as far as maybe you should have got fixed debt, or maybe you should have got bridge, and you're going to have certain situations like that, but just get smarter because of it.
Definitely. You mentioned the word recourse in terms of debt.
Yes.
Can you explain that to us? Because a lot of people, that one of the things that they say, okay, how can I buy? How can I? And I'm gonna use like a name of like people someone that a lot of people know, which is Grant Cardone. How he can buy those thousands of units? He goes there, he shows all the money that he has. So. And a lot of people think that he has the money just to pay the cash, or he has all the loans on his name, which would not make sense. So, what does recourse debt means?
Yeah, recourse means if something happened, that the lender can come after you personally, your personal assets.
Okay.
Whereas if it's non-recourse, the property itself, typically we have a new LLC for each property, but the property itself is where the lender could come and take the property, but they can't come after you personally. Now, there are certain things called like bad boy carve out type in a loan, even for a non-recourse. If you do certain things like fraud and things like that, the lender can invoke and say this is now recourse and come after you personally. But that's the biggest difference. When you're buying smaller properties, usually 4 and below, generally speaking, it's going to be recourse debt. You also get maxed out when you're buying smaller properties. And, for me, with the loans we do on larger properties, I'm able to continue to reuse my exact same balance sheet, my net worth and, real estate owned and everything. So, I have $775 million in non-recourse loans right now. Well, how do I do that? Well, I'll keep reusing the exact same net worth because each lender treats it as a new loan.
Okay, 775 million. So that's a large number. And then, yeah, people happen is that when you get into real estate initially, like you buy your primary residence, and especially when, although a lot of people don't even remember when the depression came and the market crashed in 2008, a lot of people got into foreclosure and they got the lost properties. They got like some of the lenders came after them, which is not the majority. So that's what they was so worried about when they heard all those large numbers. Although you said you have to do the things the right way, you might do things like not supposed to do, you get in trouble.
Sure.
So that makes that huge sense, and thank you for explaining. Something that you mentioned right there, and I wanted to get into it, an LLC, limited liability corporation. So every single property, even if it's small, that we always recommend, if it's two-family house, an investment property, you should do that. But so you have like every single deal, let's see, 120 units, you have an LLC. Someone that's investing as a passive investor. Let's see, I don't know, I'm a doctor, I have a business, whatever it is. Should I get it LLC to invest, or can I do that in my personal name?
Yeah, I mean, it's really probably a question for an attorney. If you're coming in as a passive investor, I think the average attorney would say even if you invested in your own name, your risk is really small. I like the idea, frankly, of having it in an LLC. I just think it's cleaner that way. But I think you probably, some attorneys might say it's just not necessary because your liability is so low, limited partner. But I would probably set up an LLC. I invested in several deals initially under my personal name, and I switched them around to a LLC.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We do the same thing. Mastermind. So you decided that you wanted to open your mastermind. And by the way, that is one of the, like, have a taps how did you say taps? Oh, I forgot. Anyway, has a, I had it right here, taps notch reputation. So how do you decide to start Mastermind and not decided to use the time, because it is a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to run it, and instead of just continue doing your deals and be
Right.
like focused on deals, and you'd be able to have a group of people that want to look up to you, and you teach them, and then be like create the tribe. Why do
Right.
you decide to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we've asked ourselves that question before. I mean, initially, and this is, when we first started, both my wife Tamil and myself, we did not want to do education. I had zero plan. I mean, like I said, I was an IT guy, did CPA. I mean, I wasn't really interested in it. Really, through some circumstances where we felt that there were, certain groups out there, in personal opinion, that were doing things that really weren't serving the people in the group. It was all self-serving, and they had, in my opinion, too, ridiculous rules, trying to dictate what you can and can't do, trying to take fees from people that even though they're not even on the deal, things like, in my personal opinion, not up and up.
Mm.
So we were like, hey, people are like, why don't you guys do something? We're like, okay, we'll do like a webinar. So we did a couple webinars, and we did a couple meetups, and then we did like a half day event. And then we both, I mean, you can relate to this, and other people maybe can't. We both, in all seriousness, felt that God called us to do this. I'm not just saying that because we didn't. Someone asked me the other day, I said, he had to have called us because neither of us wanted to do it. And then we both just fell in love with it, where we were able to help other people. Yes, there's a time commitment, but when I hear, stories, I've closed a lot of deals. So, I mean, I don't really get overly excited when we close a deal. I mean, I wish I got more excited, but when somebody new does a deal, or I hear stories where someone has been able to leave their W-2 job, or the spouse has left a W-2 job, or they both did it, And then in some cases now their kids getting involved. It literally is changing people's lives, not just because of my wife, to me and myself, it's the whole community, but we kind of spearheaded that, right? And fortunately, my wife, to me, was very much on the community side. I initially could care less about it. I just wanted to go to transactions. But she was, our group is called Family Syndication Group on purpose to, try to give that family vibe and environment and things like that. But in all seriousness, it was one of those things we wanted to provide something that we thought education and a lot of the groups were very subpar. And we saw a lot of the groups that were really focused really all on coaching and not doing deals. So they're a coaching business that happens to do some real estate. We consider ourselves a real estate business that happens to do some coaching. I'm still very active partner on a bunch of deals on a, pretty much a monthly basis. We're closing deals. So one was education, one to provide everything we learned, provide all the contacts, all the lessons learned. Other groups we went to were we knew problems were going on there and never talked about them. I would share, I don't, not because I'm proud of certain things, but I will share, horror stories that have happened and things that have happened and lawsuits and things like that. It's to help people, that transparency, so they don't have to go through the same pain we went through. And I look at it that we were, fairly successful, pretty short period of time with basically little to no help. And so we figure if we're able to help people and really provide an environment that is collaborative, where a lot of the other environments are very competitive, but a collaborative environment, access to me if you have questions. I don't know everything, but I've done, over 100 deals. So I've definitely learned, some things to look out for on deals. And if we can help people change their life and financially get more time back, and then hopefully, generational wealth is the big thing for us, because if you don't teach your kids anything about money, it's going to be gone, right? One generation, it'll be gone. So that's the other thing, is trying to not just build something, but be able to retain it. And I look at our life from where I grew up, frankly, and my wife, she got married pretty young, but where her aspirations and dreams were, frankly, she never would have dreamed that we're in a position that we're in, not just financially, but just other aspects of our life.
Yeah, and I agree with you. The terms of the God's call, and sometimes we don't want to listen to the call because it is not aligned with our path that we think we have. And then we realize this, and we really want to follow, and then we ended up just knowing and realizing why was important to follow that call.
You're going to go through hurdles, right? You're going to get knocked down. You're going to look at things. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And we've been through that multiple times, but if it really is a calling, and to be doing it this long, it's definitely a calling, because to your point, we could just go out and do our own deals and probably make more money. I mean, I know we charge for coaching, as you know as well, but the amount of money you make from coaching versus deals it's a very, very small fraction.
And that's one of the things that caught my attention, that you were really you were, and you're still really active. So because there are other names in the industry, they're not as active. That they might want to have like an education platform, which is good, but at the same time you are not doing it. So you are not just in a day-to-day operation, which you are, and that's a huge value for that. You mentioned Tamil, your wife, many times, and in the transmission. It's something that I noticed, and I said to myself that if it wasn't because of my wife, I won't be here personally, because of my health issues and business wise.
Right.
In terms of your career, how has been working with your wife? What is the impact that she's been having in your career and everything that you guys do?
Yeah, when I did IT, she was not involved at all, right? I mean, she was a supportive spouse, but not involved in it. With this business, she's equal or more partner. She works her butt off, but we were able to, it took us probably about a year to figure out who was really doing what. I kind of was under the, I guess, incorrect position that I could tell her kind of what to do, frankly, because I was the one out doing deals. I was the one talking to brokers, doing loans, things like that. So initially, I definitely undervalued her position, which was more the branding, the marketing, the community, all the things I'm not good at, and frankly didn't like at the time. But I can tell you, it's not just like you're a spouse supporting. Our business would be nowhere near where it is right now without her involvement. And unfortunately, after that year or so, we were able to get very clear delineation, who's doing what, who's responsible for what. I can't overrule her on her areas. She can't overrule me on her on my areas. And we give opinions, but we let each person kind of run those functions. Which one, whether it's your spouse or someone else, I would say don't undervalue their contribution. There is different, value for contribution, but don't undervalue somebody else's contribution because they have a different skill set than you. And then make sure it's very clear who's doing what and let them run with it. You can provide input. The third piece, which isn't really a piece for us necessarily, is the compensation piece. If you're going to partner with somebody, make sure everything up front is nailed down as far as how you're going to split things up. Because I've seen probably literally hundreds of partnerships, and I probably can't think of a single partnership at the top of my head where it's been equal. There is always one person doing more than the other on a regular basis. That's okay, typically for a short period of time, but at some point in time, the person doing more is going to be frustrated. And plus, if you lock into a partnership, I'm locked into my wife, of course, but if you lock into a partnership, not your spouse, it can be hard to get out of that. And maybe you want to go do your own thing, but your partner thinks, well, hey, I should be part of that too. If you're asking me to do something, Carlos, and I'm trying to bring another partner along, and they're like, well, I should get half what you get, Mark. I'm like, well, you're not doing anything, So there's just, but with spouse wise, it's been fantastic. It took us a while to get there, but now we got it pretty much nailed down as far as who does what. And we have a really, really good working relationship.
Yeah, and it shows in everything you guys do. I read a book called Rocket Fuel, and it says that you need to have the visionary and the integrator to have it like a successful business. In your case, who's the visionary and who's the integrator?
I'd say Tammy's probably more the visionary.
Yeah, same here.
I do. And part of the reason, I do a lot of thinking. I'm a thinker, right? But I would say a lot of times I'm just so focused on, problems, basically. That's pretty much my day, right? Trying to negotiate and get around issues to where it's very tactical. So we recently hired a business coach too. We know what we need to do, right? But it's been very tactical for a number of months, and we're trying to staff up to try to help that process and free us up to kind of work on the things that we should be working on. But I would say visionary wise is definitely Tammy.
Yeah, same here. And I mentioned multiple times, Juliana is the visionary. Sometimes she comes to those crazy ideas that we're like, what? And that's why I have to figure out how can get it done, if we can get it done. And something that you say now, that you got a business coach, and that's super valuable, because a lot of people think that they know it all. And the more time you're in the industry, the more you need to get the new things, or rephrase the basis that you have. Sometimes you have to go back to basis. So it's great that you mentioned that, because people think that the ones that the search like some kind of level, they know it all. They don't need to network, and you mentioned multiple times, or just get someone. And even like, I always try to compare life with sports. Yeah, you have those like Michael Jordans or those big guys. I mean, they all have like multiple coaches, and that's why they are who they are. So that's great. You touched in partnership, and like a lot of the events, in some of the events you were there too. It seems that there was a trend of always like partners, like three or four of them. They're always like, okay, so we divide roles, and then we were able to scale and reach different levels. So and you just said before that you have to be careful to just identify the roles and the compensation. But overall, are you in favor of people just getting like in partnerships, or you better off? So you know what, you try to build it yourself. You already have a partner. If we're lucky enough to have our wife next to us, or what would you take in terms of like people that want it? Because like it seems like real estate, you know that already. It's a team work, especially syndication. You need the whole team around you, and sometimes you divide the task between like 3 or 4 partners. It looks from outside, and especially if you see these cases, the people that are doing it and having a lot of success and just reaching like large numbers. That's the way to go. What do you think about that?
Yeah, first I would partner. First of all, deal by deal. I wouldn't typically enter into a formal partnership. For that deal I would, but not like, hey, we're doing all deals together. I think it makes a lot of sense to partner. The reason I think it does is because if you don't partner with somebody, you're going to be doing probably a lot of tasks or functions to where, one, you're not good at them, and or you don't like them at all. It would be very rare where somebody would like every single task and they're good at every single task. That's like, one in a very large number, right? So find somebody. Now, don't partner with somebody identical to you, right? That has the exact same skill set. Tamil and I, we complement each other skill set wise about as perfect as you could get in my mind, so that's great for us. But don't, if you both like to underwrite deals, I'd say it's probably not a great partnership. One person underwrites deals, someone focuses on capital, someone's focusing on finding deals, things like that. So I'm a big proponent of it. I'm not very proponent of locking into a partnership day one that has, no real end time. So try it out. Our attorney will say, date first before you marry. And point being is let's do a deal together, see if we like each other, and then do more deals potentially together. And at some point you might decide to do a formal partnership.
Yeah, I heard that date first, and then
Yeah.
we having Brandon Turner, which you have in your podcast before. He's gonna be here with us tomorrow, and he talked about that about when he joined. He partnered with Brian Murray, with his company, and then last week we have I'm not sure if you know him. His name is Jamie Gruber. He's huge in GoFundMe. He also have like a fund, and he partnered with somebody else. Huh?
No, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so what you said before makes a lot of sense, and that's huge, and I appreciate that you recommend that. In terms of like we've been talking about business for a long time, and I appreciated your time. I know this been taking a little bit longer, but in terms of your personal like life, I would like to know more about you. Can you recommend like a book, and then like a movie or series? Just say, Carlos, this book is a really good book that you should read, and a TV series, or like one of those TV providers, whatever it is, or a movie.
The book, I think Keith Cunningham has a book called The Road Less Stupid.
I love Keith.
And yeah, I just love the transparency and the frankness that he has. It's a great book. Books will only get you so much information. The real world experience where you're going to learn it, but that's definitely one of the better books that I've read for sure. Movie wise, I don't really have any. I like the new Maverick that we came out. I think everyone else does too, but that was nothing to do with business. That was more just a cool movie.
But that's fine. I mean, it doesn't have to do like it's not all about business. So
Right.
Maverick, I love that one too, especially because I grew when I grew up, it was the first
For
one
sure.
with Top Gun and
36 years
everything.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this was super fun. Okay, and in terms of hobbies, when you are not like analyzing deals, when you are not like troubleshooting, because that's a lot of your role. I mean, you have to like oversee a lot of the deals that go on at the same time, and when you are not doing these podcasts and all the educational things that you're doing in your mastermind, what are your hobbies? What is that you like to do when you have free time?
Yeah. So I work out every day. I love doing it. It's a mental break. A lot of people hate it. But it's now my son works out with me in the morning, so he's there, and now he actually has two of his friends working out, so he's kind of passing it along, which is great to see. And I eat, real clean, and my son's starting to eat real clean and things like that. So very much fitness, and I wasn't when I did IT. I mean, everybody can make an excuse, but I made a big priority to have my fitness because I had some. I felt like I had issues like joint issues and arthritis type issues, and I don't anymore. I'm no joke. I mean, I feel the best I've ever felt. I'm not just saying that to say it. I've been eating clean for a few years, been working out like nonstop. I don't miss days. So I'm very consistent with it. And then the other thing that I'm very passionate about are just cars. I kind of wish I wasn't, but I am. So I definitely like exotics, but I'm very much into like the 60s type cars, muscle cars. And in fact, I was able to buy into a Restomod shop, which is essentially taking old cars. We take 60s cars and new frame, new motors, new transmissions, everything brand new. Interior, everything is new, right? Like a brand new car. So I was able to buy into that in December. We have about a dozen cars we're working on right now, and they're all. My heart gets pounding. No joke. When I look at it, I get very I think about them a lot, how what we're going to do to them, different colors and different, add-ons we can do. So cars and fitness are definitely two of the biggest things in my life from a hobby perspective.
Yeah, you have to share some of the pictures of the cars. The because
Yeah, they're coming along. So far, it's just been money out. But we're going to bring a couple. We're supposed to bring a couple to Barrett Jackson and things like that. So we're doing, and I'm doing one for myself as well. So we'll see. We'll see. That just came in about a week ago, actually. So
when you say fitness, a lot of people will say, "Yeah, I'm fitness. I exercise 6 times a week. I'm trying to eat healthy." But you take it to the extreme. I mean, I've been in events and you brought your own meals. I mean,
yeah,
that,
I
I
think
mean,
there's, and I'm not just saying there's something probably.
and I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, you did
Oh
super
no.
good. I mean,
I think there's something in my childhood that's driving, because I work out hard to begin with, but I'm on a 6-week program right now. This is my 5th week in, and um, I'm doing quite a bit extra. It's already a hard program. I'm doing extra. I don't know why. I really don't. And then, I'll cut my calories and things like, see how I do. And, but yeah, I definitely will. I'm a big proponent of not eating out. If I do like junk, people think, oh, you don't like junk food. Oh, I like it. I just don't give into it all the time, right?
I just
But if I'm going to eat out, it's going to be eating out. I don't want to go out and just have like regular food. So I'll bring my own food when I travel. You don't have to do that, obviously, but to me, it's fine.
so what are your body fat right now, percentage?
I don't know. It's
I hope
I
I
don't
hope
know. I
I
probably,
just can imagine someone watching the title,
yeah.
multifamily apartment syndication, how it works, and then a body fat percentage. So I has to.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't really get it checked, but I'm probably, sub 10, I would guess.
Yeah, I would say like 7%.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll vary, but I try to maintain. I don't do the up and down anymore, where people put on, like, I dropped 24 pounds and, since January, and I'm just maintaining pretty much there. Because I'm too old to keep doing the up and down. And my wife doesn't. She's like, you don't look so good when you have the extra weight, even though I'm eating clean and working out. So I just I'll just stay lean.
And definitely something you said in the beginning, discipline. You have to have discipline for everything you do in your life.
You
And
do.
and the way you do one thing, you do everything. So obviously,
That's right.
obviously you are really committed to whatever you put your heart on. So last question: what are your differentiator? So how come you can do what a lot of people can do? How do you able to retire from your business? How can you scale to, like, right now you have like a debt for like 750 million dollars, which sounds like a large number. It's just the debt. It's not just the
Right.
market value of the properties, which is higher. And then in top of all of that, you have a beautiful family, and then you are super committed with your fitness health. So how can what are your differentiator? What can you do all of that when a lot of us can't?
Um, I think can't probably don't probably is a better word, but I would say the
Well,
I do consider myself, I'm going to say it like, when I did IT, I think I got all my self-worth out of my job when I did IT. And probably about when my son was born, which he just turned 18, was probably when I had a big mind shift to say, there's so much more to life than just work, and trying to get, you never probably 100% balance in any given day, but trying to balance all aspects of your life as much as possible. And then realizing that, and again, you can relate, other people can't. Everything I have is not mine. It was, I'm not an extraordinary type person. God has been able to allow me to be, kind of decent in a couple of different areas. But if nothing else, it's the humility that I know that one life event can change my entire perspective, or one event can happen that can, potentially devastate your life.
mm,
So it's not all about you. Don't think you're all that great, that yeah, you can give yourself credit for things you do and go maybe above and beyond. But end of the day has nothing to do with you. It has to do with, God having his hand on you. And I think for me, I've seen the results of not putting my life in balance, like, to the point where my wife was, basically ready to move out. Right. So that was a big, rude awakening for me. So I've made a commitment. Plus, she was the one that wanted me to start working out anyways. So now she thinks I work out too much. But, so I think that being humble, understanding that you have to be patient, the discipline you talked about, it's grit, because I can tell you, I go through a lot of different things that a lot of people probably just wouldn't be able to handle. But I do say, you know what, if I look at the end of my life, when I'm however old I am, will this really matter when I'm, on my deathbed? And 99.9% of the stuff we worry about will not matter then. So, when I turned 50 was probably another big thing for me, where I was like, well, you know what, I need to, I'm getting older, obviously, but perspective wise, life and, and then trying to give back to people and things like that. So there's only so much stuff you can do. And then end of the day, we try to surround ourselves around people that are doing what we want to do. Right. And then last, I would say, comes back to kind of humility and things like that, is being a fair person, not a pushover, but a fair person that's easy to work with, and is always looking for a solution, and stop complaining about all the things going wrong, because that's what people spend all their time on, and start looking for solutions as far as how you're going to get out of a situation. And if you don't know, have trusted advisors that can help you make those decisions for you.
Definitely, I love it. To God be the glory, be fair, and just look for the solution and look for an advisor. I mean, those are goals that you just mentioned there. I know we have an event coming up. So can you tell us when the event is going to be? Where the people can still sign up for the event?
Yeah, it's in Dallas, called the Fire Event. It's all areas of multifamily. We have a lot of speakers there. It's November 11th and 12th. Friday, Saturday, and it's in the Dallas area. So love people to come there. It's a lot of content. We're not all about the hype. You're gonna hope if you come, you'll see probably a little difference there. We're not running around stage just trying to get people motivated for the weekend, go back to Monday and not know anything. Right? We're trying to provide real content in an environment that's very collaborative. We provide even like a 90-minute lunch, and plus breaks, because we know that the relationships you can build there are more important than a lot of other things you can do just from an education standpoint.
Yeah, and we're gonna have great speakers. You're gonna be a speaker, of course, and then one of the hosts for the Real Estate Guys podcast,
Robert Helms, is coming. Love Robert. He'll be coming there as well. So he's very very knowledgeable person, very friendly, cool guy, down to earth. Another very humble person. Which I, just really, he'll be there. And one of other speakers as well, brokers and mortgage brokers and passive investing, what to look out for and things like that. So as much as we can pack in a couple of days, we'll do it.
Yeah, definitely. Wonderful. Mark, if someone wants to follow you, someone wants to although I haven't seen one of the pictures for the cars, I guess you have to start.
I don't post those. I just don't. I'll send you one personally, maybe. But
please, I want to see them. But if someone wants to follow you,
yeah,
and wants to learn more about the industry, of course, I mean, they can join the mastermind. They don't have to join the mastermind in order to go to the event. That's something.
No. Probably best just email me. My email is Mark, MARK, at thinkmultifamily.com. So it's Mark at thinkmultifamily.com.
Wonderful, Mark. It was a pleasure. Thank you for being with us. Just don't go yet. I want to say hi to.
Sure.
I want to say bye to you on private. And to all of you, thank you for being here with us with special series that we're doing with English speaking guests. Tomorrow we're gonna have Brandon Turner. He used to be the host for Bigger Pockets. We're gonna be speaking with us in terms of investing God's way. We're gonna be having the show exactly like this one. We're going to be live en Facebook and YouTube at 3 p.m. Y para todos ustedes, recordarles una vez más que mañana tenemos un programa especial. El viernes tenemos un programa con Juli que vamos a estar hablando con respecto a la mentalidad del inversionista. Y recuerden que la familia es la base de la sociedad. Y una familia libre a través de inversiones en bienes raíces es nuestra misión. Que los bendiga a todos. Nos encontramos mañana a las 3 de la tarde para que tengamos nuestra cita con Brandon Turner. Bye.